Well, it's been quite a while since I've been able to work on the boat. I've been able to do some paddling with a buddy of mine, and we had a visit from our grandchildren, and so a couple of weeks have gone by, and now I'm ready to work on the hatches. I sent an email off to the Pygmy folks because I couldn't quite figure out how the hatches were supposed to work. It seemed to me that the material they'd sent me was too big to place them as far forward and aft as they suggested they should be. And what they pointed out to me was that if I read carefully, which I seem to have a problem with, that the hatches are kind of universal. They fit, they're made to go with all of their boats, and what each individual needs to do is to custom fit them to the boat that they have. Now they have some suggested placements, but say that you can use some, creativity or your own ideas about placement, as long as the bulkheads fit and all of that kind of thing. So this is what I've done so far. The original placement on this, if I set it out the way it was, originally I would have had to put the hatch all the way back here, and it would have been enormous. It would have covered the back deck. So now I've laid it out. It has to be 7/8 of an inch into the inside at least. I've laid it out here in a way that I think will work. Now this is a nice big hatch that's going to be on the back deck, which is good. I like that. I'll be able to get some larger gear into the back if I want to do some overnighting. On the bow, the original piece, this is the lip that goes on the inside, but it's the same size as the original piece that I put down. If I lay it out on top of the other piece, you can see how much bigger it is than the space. I've set this at 26 inches. They suggested 27. The back is at 26. The front is at pretty close to 27 here. And it's a small hatch. It's not really, it's long enough. It's 16 inches long, but it's narrow. So that means some difficulty getting gear in and out. It might be good for tents and things like that. You might be able to get in there. But we'll see when we get it cut out. Now I've trimmed this to fit, and I have gone around with a very fine permanent marker to get a line. They said to use a pencil, but I couldn't see the darn pencil mark, and so I'm hoping that the permanent marker, that if I stay on it, it'll just disappear as I cut this thing out. And I'm going to have to fit the back one in the same way. But you can see that I've got much more than 7/8 of an inch. I probably have 1.25 inches here, and this lip will be cut so that it will go underneath this spacer. The spacer will go on top of it, and this will go underneath, and then the hatch will sit back in on it. And you can see that it's going to make the hatch opening even smaller with that lip in there. So that's where I am at this point. Well, at this point, I have located my hatch covers on the deck. I've trimmed the spacer and the lip to the appropriate size for the spaces, laid them on the deck, and I've drawn the area that I need to cut out on the inside of those spaces on the deck. And now I have started to cut, and I'll tell you, it's about the most nerve-wracking thing that I've done so far, cutting a hole in the deck of this perfectly tight boat. The process they say to use is to use a saber saw blade in a vice grip. And I can see already that I'm not getting a really straight cut. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. couple of things I found out in the process so far. First of all, I've tipped the boat and lowered it so that I could really look at what I was doing here. But secondly, I found that when I'm doing it from the floor, I don't get an even cut. I don't seem to be able to see the turns as well. So what I wound up doing is going up on a two-step ladder, first one step, then two, so that I can get down on this edge quite clearly. The next thing I'm going to do is to drill a number of small holes over here so I can start the saw blade here and move back this way so that I don't have the last cut in the unit right here at the peak. I've also put some duct tape along this edge to hold the piece that's been cut up because it wants to move up and down every time I saw, and it makes the sawing more difficult. I'll bring this camera over closer so you can see what's happening up here close. You can see where the cut has been made here under the tape, all the way around over to here at this point. Okay, this is the line that I drew. And I'm probably going to drill a couple of holes here and start back this way and then finish by connecting these two, because I don't want the last cut to be here. I think that will not work real well. Well, I finished cutting in the hatch covers, and the job came out pretty well. There are some unevenness, but I don't think it'll show too much. I did just a little bit of sanding and so forth on the edges. Again, not too much, just enough to even things out a little bit. And I've gone ahead and I've glassed the backs of the hatch covers as the directions suggested. So I'll give you a look at this. I have the boat set up on its side for the next process, which I'll describe as we get into the next process, but I can show you the hatches and the hatch covers as they are right now. So here's the boat propped up on its side, being held by these ropes that are hooked into some things at the ceiling. If you do this, you'll have to find your own way of doing it. This seemed to work for me. This is the front hatch, cut out, doesn't look too bad. Here's the hatch itself, ready to go in as soon as I put the spacer and lip in place. Down here is the back hatch. It's a nice big opening, and the piece that goes in place. All in all, I'm pretty pleased with the way it turned out, given how anxious I was about doing that, cutting the holes into the deck.